I can remember, speaking of being in high school, the bullies that I went to school with. The real life schoolyard bully was never quite as one-dimensional and cartoonishly villainous as he was portrayed in shows and movies that we watched back then. But he was still a jerk, right? And as I recall, bullies were pretty straightforward. They would impose themselves on those who were weaker and taunt and belittle them because it gave them, the bullies, personal satisfaction, and probably because they were trying to assuage their own damaged egos and enhance their own sense of self-worth and so on. But the message from the bully was, I'm strong, you're weak, and that makes me better than you. The bully would try to hurt his victim's feelings or hurt him physically, and if he succeeded, then he won, at least in his mind. That's why the best response to a bully back then was to try to beat him at his own game, to cause him the exact sort of hurt that he wanted to cause you. If you succeeded, then the bully was vanquished, at least for a time. If you punched the bully in the nose and made him run off crying, then you won because you had asserted your dominance over him. He had made a fool of himself and cried in front of everybody, and this was a source of shame. That's the way that it used to work. It wasn't great. It wasn't a great position to be in. Bullying is never a good thing. It was a little bit messy at times. But I have to say, lately I've been pining for the simplicity and the coherence of those days, how bullying used to work. Because now things are flipped on their head. The bullies are all, sort of modeling themselves after that scene in Fight Club where Edward Norton gets revenge on his boss by beating the hell out of himself in the boss's office. So the bully now asserts his dominance, assuages his ego, enhances his own self-worth by manufacturing ways in which he has been hurt by his victim. Bullying today is far more passive-aggressive, manipulative, and psychologically twisted than the simple days of, calling somebody a name, shoving them into a locker to let them know that you're more powerful than them. Now the bullies assert their power by pretending that their victim is asserting power over them. They gain power by affecting powerlessness. When I was younger, it would have been embarrassing for anyone, especially a guy, to admit that he had his feelings hurt. Now there's a contest over who had their feelings hurt the most. It used to be if you said, I got my feelings hurt, everybody would point and laugh at you and say, you got your feelings hurt, you loser. Now, instead of responding that way, everybody says, no, I have my feelings hurt even more than you. Neither response is great, but what we're doing now is worse. And this is how modern cancer culture works, of course. We saw a perfect example of this over the weekend when a guy by the name of Frederick Joseph, who's a black man and also an author, and I'll tell you more about his book in a moment because it is relevant here. He sent out a string of tweets claiming that he had been accosted by a white woman in a dog park in Brooklyn. He tweeted, quote, "At the dog park in Brooklyn with my fiance, and this white woman was threatening to call police and told us to stay in our hood because she had our dog confused with another dog who had been barking loudly. So I started recording and she tried to slap the phone out of my hand." He then posted the video, of course, but naturally the video cuts on right after all of this allegedly happened. Let's watch it here. Check it out.
Stay in our hood? No.
I'm gonna invite everyone.
Stay in our hood? Stay in our hood. I'm sorry, what? Stay in our hood? Stay in our hood. You just told us to stay in our hood? You just told us to leave the dog park and stay in our hood.
Oh my God, did you just say that to me?
Wow. Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
The Karen is in the white.
I'm sorry, you were right here, watch this entire thing. Did she just not stand here and tell us to stay in our hood?
She did.
You just told us to stay.
So, what do we know from that video? Well, nothing at all. We don't know the context. We don't know what was said before the video cuts on. We don't know what precipitated the interaction or even what the interaction was. We don't know if she said what he claimed she said or why she said it if she did in fact say anything. We don't know anything. We have only this out-of-context video featuring a group of people that none of us have ever heard of, and we have the word of Mr. Frederick Joseph, a word which must be taken with a rather large portion of salt, given that Frederick Joseph is the author of a book called The Black Friend on Being a Better White Person. On Being a Better White Person. Now, I don't need to read the book to know that it's a racist screed for the same reason that Frederick Joseph wouldn't have to read a book by me about being a better black person to declare that it's racist. So this guy's a professional race baiter, who's in the business of telling white people how to be better. And he just so happens to find himself in this situation with an allegedly racist white woman. I mean, you might almost think that this anti-white race-baiting bigot may have engineered this situation to play out exactly as it did. Who knows? But Joseph wasn't satisfied to simply put the video up and leave it at that, of course. He then proceeds to dig up this woman's name and other pictures of her and post them online also. He even posts the name of her dog for some reason. He posts the town where she lives. And then he finds out where she works. Or worked, I should say. And he posts that information. And then he personally contacts her boss by the name of Derek Anderson at a company called Bevy to try and get her fired. And obviously he succeeds. So within hours of the original out-of-context 15-second video being posted, the woman has lost her job, lost her reputation, her privacy, probably most of her friends given where she lives. Derek Anderson, her former boss, tweeted this: Bevy has zero tolerance for discriminatory behavior of any kind. Yesterday, an employee engaged in behavior contrary to our values and has been terminated. We apologize deeply to all involved. Now, how does he know what sort of behavior she engaged in? There couldn't have been enough time to actually investigate the situation thoroughly. I mean, we don't know. But that doesn't matter. All he knows is that Frederick Joseph says that his feelings were hurt, and that's all the information he needs. Now, for his part, after randomly ruining this stranger's life for no reason, Frederick Joseph posted a follow-up video encouraging everybody, white people namely, to learn the right lessons from this incident. Watch this.
So I was just told that Bevy has terminated Emma Sarley after her racist attack against my fiance and I in the dog park. And while it's unfortunate that she had to lose her job, I do think that this brings up an important conversation about accountability, especially in a country where Black and brown people, marginalized people as a whole, have seen so little of it oftentimes, right? Having to bear the burden of racism, sexism, homophobia, etc. I think that it's important that people know that there are consequences for their actions, right? And I don't think that it's up to victims to have to coddle, people who are engaging in abuse. When I woke up yesterday morning, I didn't expect to have to be a part of this conversation. I didn't expect to go to the dog park as a Black person and have to receive, racism. So while again it is unfortunate what happened, I hope that Emma learns from this. I hope that other people learn from this who engage in abusive, racist, and destructive behavior, because ultimately, whether Emma lost her job or not doesn't take away the trauma that my fiance and I have. It doesn't take away the feeling of feeling like anything racist can happen anywhere. So I don't think that people should be coddled, and I do think that consequences are important. So hopefully this is a learning lesson for everybody.
A learning lesson. So the rule maintains here, the rule I've told you about, anytime someone says they've done or said something in order to start a conversation, they're always full of it 100% of the time. And here yet again, well, it brings up an important conversation. It's unfortunate she had to lose her job. She had to lose her job. It's unfortunate. After I have deliberately made sure that she loses her job, after I spent my weekend trying to make sure that this woman lost her job, it's unfortunate that it happened. It had to happen. It's just how the stars aligned. It's fate. What could I do about it? Well, it turns out I could do a lot to make sure she loses her job, because that's what I spent my weekend doing. He says he was traumatized. He's traumatized by this little white woman at a dog park. When I was a kid, if a guy had claimed to have been traumatized by words that someone else had said, much less words that a girl has said to you, you'd be mocked ruthlessly. Then you're going to suffer real trauma. That's the kind of social sin in going around saying, I was traumatized by those words you said to me. That would stay with you forever. You know, if you said that in 3rd grade, 10 years later, people would still be talking about it and making fun of you for it. But this is how bullying works now. This is the power of victimhood. The bully asserts his power by affecting powerlessness, by claiming that he is the one who is traumatized, while he at least tries to cause trauma to other people. I would say that's real trauma when you have the internet lynch mob coming after you. You lose your job and everything else. And I say all this knowing, by the way, that this woman, I'm going to assume a pretty good chance that she is a leftist herself, just based on where she lives alone. So you might say this is another example of the left eating its own. Perhaps so. But it's still a problem because it's yet again the bully asserting the power of victimhood. It's just not possible to have a functioning society this way. You know, it was one thing when the strong used to subjugate the weak by imposing their strength. Now they subjugate the weak by pretending to be weaker. Which, in the end, we find out is a much worse situation. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.